If you're in your 40s and you think you've hopelessly missed the boat on investing, well, think again. In fact, at this age, you actually have even more opportunities than many young people, and I'll explain why. A few years ago, I spoke with a new insider member, let's call him Tumas. He was in his late 40s, had worked for more than 15 years in a managerial position, and he realized that, in fact, his thoughts weren't really moving forward anymore. And since his job had been similar for so long, he also felt a bit burned out, and he didn't know how to move forward. After completing our trainings, he started to look at life differently, so to speak, and he discovered that he actually had quite a lot of opportunities that he hadn't noticed in his life before. He realized that he had capital that could be put to much better use for his own benefit. Namely, he lived in a house, he had his own car, he had a motorcycle that could be sold, and he realized that if he actually gave up some of these bigger things, he could direct that same capital into investing. And I showed him two graphs where it shows a 25-year-old who invests, for example, 200 euros a month, and a 47-year-old who invests 2,000 euros a month. By the time he turned 65, the 47-year-old was actually able to build a much larger investment capital than the 20-year-old. And he came to the conclusion that there are actually three reasons why in older or more mature age there are quite a few advantages. First of all, you already have enough life experience. You know that things take time and that markets go up and down, which means you have probably lived through the global crisis of 2008. You have witnessed the COVID period. You know that there are times when the market can drop by 20%. Now, a young person who experiences this for the first time will probably get scared and exit the market. At the same time, a mature person who knows what they're doing actually goes through it quietly and has a completely different, that is, long-term perspective. When we're 25, a 5-year perspective seems like a really long period. Because our conscious adult life has perhaps been quite short, those 5 years seem, so to speak, too far away. At the same time, for someone who is, say, 40 or 50 years old, a 5 or 10-year period is a completely normal time frame in which to grow their assets, so to speak. So that's definitely one thing. The second thing is that when you're in your 20s, you're probably investing just a bit of pocket money that you have, but when you're older, you have real capital to actually do something with. And using that same example of Tumas, when he made those few moves, within a short period, let's say within a year, he was actually able to grow his investment portfolio quite a lot. And he got, so to speak, a pretty quick start. And at the same time, someone who is just at the very beginning of their journey or is younger, well, they simply don't have the resources to make those moves. And thirdly, in our 40s, we likely have much greater social capital, meaning we know more people, we have more experience, we see what others have done, and maybe we interact more with people who have capital. And also in our inner circle community, there tend to be more people who are at a more mature age who can serve as examples for each other. And thanks to that, we can also, so to speak, move forward more quickly. One more difference perhaps between young people and those in middle age is that young people are often still at the survival or security level, so to speak, on the map of the journey to financial freedom, whereas middle-aged people are often at the comfort level. And the thing about comfort is that you have acquired various big things for yourself that you think are necessary for life, but which can actually be liquidated and put to work for your benefit. And the mindset should be that you first create assets for yourself and only then increase your comforts. And if you have already created that comfort for yourself, then you actually have quite a few options. You can perhaps give up some things, postpone that comfort to the future, free up the capital tied up in those big things, invest that money, and when that investment starts bringing in income, you can acquire those comforts for yourself again. So if you are doubtful about whether you are too late for this, the good news is that you actually are not. However, you may need to change your mindset, so to speak, because if your current actions have brought you to the point where you are now, and it's not quite where you would like to end up, then it's actually never too late to make that change. In fact, you have quite a few advantages compared to those people who are perhaps only in their 20s and just starting to invest.